I was assigned female at birth. It did not align with me. I really tried to embrace that role that was expected of me. Wife, mother. Oh my goodness. I didn't start transitioning for a couple years after Hazel was born. Hazel was assigned female at birth a year ago. He was displaying a lot of distress and anxiety around feminine terminology. One day, I just randomly asked him if he felt like a boy or girl, both or neither. He said he was a boy.
Do you think that your transition has affected Hazel's situation with gender?
Yeah, I definitely think some aspect of my transition has had an influence. It'd kind of be hard for it not to.
I need my apron. Go grab it. I think it's in your closet.
My gender journey, that's an interesting one. I was assigned female at birth. Did not align with me, even though in my early childhood, I always felt disconnected and I couldn't put my finger on why.
Do you want to maybe add chocolate chips to your pancakes? Yes! Oh my goodness.
Miles and I met in college on Tinder, but in 2014, we had this little dude in 2017 and then got married in 2018.
Yeah.
I really tried to embrace that role that was expected of me, wife, mother, but it just didn't align with me at all. And then I started learning about non-binary and they, them pronouns. After kind of leaning into my identity as a non-binary person, I realized that a lot of what I was struggling with needed to be medically changed. Then when I started hormones the beginning of this year, I started binding almost all the time. Honestly, it didn't click for me how much I needed to be on hormones until after I started experiencing a lot of the changes. A lot of that was voice dysphoria for me. I didn't realize how much my normal higher pitched voice was really mentally messing with me. Lots of body changes, but things that I'm really happy about. Obviously now I have facial hair. Unfortunate part of that is the hormonal acne.
So Sammy, tell me about when you first told Miles that you wanted to transition.
There was actually quite a few points of tension, but it wasn't from Miles' point. I was kind of assuming that if I was gonna transition that it would become a problem. I think at that point too, Miles very firmly identified as heterosexual, and I think internally for me that was kind of difficult because I wasn't a woman.
One of your biggest concerns was, would I still be attracted to you?
Yeah, because I do look completely different now.
So how on earth could I be attracted to you?
Exactly, that's what was constantly playing around in my head.
Completely different person, but I fell in love with you as you, not as what you looked like.
Exactly.
I didn't even think of your body changing or your voice changing or your feet getting bigger.
It did. That is not something they tell you is gonna happen. When you start testosterone, they don't say, hey, your feet are gonna grow.
But they do.
So these ones are my school shirts.
Why are those ones your school shirts?
That's because I wear them for school. And straight ties like these.
Yeah, and some straight ties like these ones. Hazel's an interesting little dude. He was assigned female at birth. And around when he was about 3, we started experiencing kind of glaring symptoms of depression.
Yeah.
He was not wanting to play too much, really wanted to be by himself, hated looking in the mirror.
Almost disassociative.
We brought him to a psychologist. They encouraged us to experiment with some different pronouns. And then one day I just randomly asked him if he felt like a boy or girl, both or neither. And then it became a question that he looked forward to me asking every morning. So at first we were like, okay, maybe just gender fluid. And then for about almost a month and a half straight, every single day he said he was a boy. And it's just kind of landed on that.
So now he wears boxers by choice, and he feels much more comfortable and like himself, and wearing what are typically considered boy clothes. But we've kind of broken down the gender construct around those clothes themselves. And there's still days where dresses are the norm.
We've thankfully actually had a pretty good experience in terms of school. We obviously had some questions, but I'd rather get the questions than to have people not know. All of my friends have been 100% supportive. When it comes to family, that's kind of the challenging part. They still use incorrect terminology for me a lot, refer to me as mom or mommy. Hazel and I have both been using masculinizing pronouns for over a year. So I'm kind of now in this weird situation of like, how much leeway do we really give them to educate themselves? It creates a really rough barrier in the relationship. One of my family members asked me if I would allow Hazel to be feminine, if that's what Hazel came to me and said that they were. I think that was like insinuating that I'm forcing him to be trans. The complete opposite of the whole approach that we're taking.
Do you think that your transition has affected Hazel's situation with gender?
Yeah, I definitely think in some aspect my transition has had an influence. It'd kind of be hard for it not to. But I have not projected any of my experience onto Hazel. What I have done is provided a healthy example essentially a role model.
And believe me, no parent ever wants their child to be part of another marginalized community. This is not something we or any other parent is going to ever force on a child.
It's also important to note that in terms of how Hazel has been transitioning, he just dresses how he wants. That's it.
Can you tell me about your shoes?
These are Crocs, rainbow Crocs, that has white mixed all together with the rainbow.
Gosh.
So cool. My understanding of trans people before I met Sammy was males or females going through life that's not who they are on their inside and they need to change their outer to match their inner. But it's more than that. The idea that Hazel gets to choose who Hazel wants to be is the best gift these parents could give them.
Being a supportive parent doesn't mean making decisions for your child all the time. It means giving your child the correct information and the safe space.
I mean, as much as you can for a 4.5-year-old, we've given him a lot of the tools to make his own decisions.